Take a look at this, the perfect fluffy loaf of bread. The golden crust, the light airy texture, we all love it. But what if I told you in some parts of the world that perfect texture might come with a hidden, potentially dangerous ingredient? An ingredient so controversial, it's been banned in dozens of countries, yet remains on the shelves in others. Today, we're doing a deep dive into potassium bromate. We'll explore what this compound is, why it was a baker's best friend, the extensive research that labeled it a possible human carcinogen, and the surprising ways that it can even end up in your drinking water. This isn't just about bread, it's about a fascinating intersection of food science, public health, and global policy. So let's get started. The baker's secret ingredient. So what exactly is potassium bromate? On a chemical level, it's a powerful oxidizer. For nearly a century, since around its introduction in 1923, bakers used it as a dough conditioner and flour improver. Think of it as a supercharger for gluten. Gluten is the protein network in flour that gives bread its structure. When you knead dough, you're developing that network. Potassium bromate helps speed this process up, strengthening those gluten bonds and making the dough more elastic and easier to handle. The result, a bigger, better rise, what bakers call oven spring, and that desirable uniform crumb we see in commercial bread. It was an industrial miracle, especially for high-speed baking operations. But the baking community's main defense for its use was a chemical one. They argued that during the baking process, the heat would completely convert all the potassium bromate into a harmless substance called potassium bromide. In a perfect world, that is exactly what should happen, but as we'll see, the real world is a lot messier than that. Unmasking the danger, the science of harm. We touched on the animal studies before, but let's delve deeper into just how concerning the findings were. These weren't marginal effects. High-dose studies in rats showed a significant and consistent increase in several types of tumors. We're talking about a high incidence of renal tubular tumors in both male and female rats. That's cancer of the kidney. But it didn't stop there. Male rats also showed an elevated risk of mesotheliomas in the lining of their abdomens, and female rats developed more thyroid tumors. What's particularly alarming is that these effects were observed at relatively low doses in some cases, with precursor lesions like atypical hyperplasia appearing at just 30 parts per million in the diet. Even more worryingly, potassium bromate has been shown to enhance the carcinogenic effects of other known carcinogens, meaning that even low-level exposure could potentially amplify the risks from other sources. Beyond tumors, the science points to a clear mechanism of harm: genotoxicity. Potassium bromate has been repeatedly shown to damage DNA in experimental systems, both in living organisms and in lab-grown cells. This DNA damage is a critical step in the development of cancer. Now, think of your DNA as an instruction manual for your cells. When that manual gets damaged, cells can start to malfunction and grow uncontrollably. The scientific consensus is that there is no safe threshold for exposure to genotoxic carcinogens. Even minute amounts carry a potential risk. Given this substantial body of evidence, the strong stance taken by the European Union, Canada, and so many other nations becomes crystal clear. They weren't acting out of an abundance of caution, my favorite words from the last few years. They were responding to a credible, concerning health risk. This ban reflected a fundamental prioritization of public health and recognition that the potential dangers outweigh the perceived benefits, especially with readily available and safe alternatives. The fact that so many developed countries with robust regulatory systems have chosen to ban potassium bromate should give us pause here in the US. Their decisions were based on careful evaluation of the same scientific data. What does it say when a vast majority of the world's regulators deem this substance too risky for their populations? One of the key points of contention is the issue of residual bromate in the final baked product. While the industry claims complete conversion to bromide, numerous studies have shown that this is not always the case, especially if baking times or temperatures are not perfectly controlled, or if excessive amounts of bromate are used initially. These residues, however small, are still a concern, especially with regular consumption of bread and baked goods. It's also important to consider vulnerable populations, such as children or pregnant women, who may be more susceptible to the harmful effects of carcinogens and genotoxic substances. Even low levels of exposure over a lifetime could potentially have significant consequences. But wait, there's another hidden layer to the bromate story. It doesn't just show up in your food. It can also be found in your drinking water. It's not added intentionally, but rather as an unintended byproduct of the water purification process, especially when ozone is used as a disinfectant. Water containing naturally occurring bromide ions, when treated with ozone, can unintentionally form bromate. The amount is influenced by everything from the water's pH to its temperature. The good news is that we've developed sophisticated strategies to prevent this, like adjusting the pH of the water or adding chemicals that neutralize the bromate-forming reactions. And what about the baking industry? Well, turns out bakers don't need bromate at all to make a great loaf of bread. The secret lies in nature itself. I mean, heck, we make bread here all the time. Well, my wife makes bread here all the time, and it looks amazing. And guess what? She doesn't use potassium bromate. The industry has successfully adopted safe and effective alternatives like ascorbic acid, which is just another name for vitamin C, and a range of natural enzymes. These give bakers all the benefits of bromate without any risks, and they're also considered clean label ingredients, which consumers love. The story of potassium bromate is a stark reminder that industrial convenience cannot come at the cost of public health. The overwhelming scientific evidence pointing to it as a potential human carcinogen is deeply concerning and cannot be ignored. The global trend towards banning this substance reflects a growing understanding that even seemingly small risks, especially those linked to cancer, warrant strong preventative action, particularly when safe and effective alternatives are readily available. I just find it personally stunning and striking that the US has not banned this ingredient yet, and make sure to look for it in your ingredient labels of everything that you buy, especially your bread products. The continued use of potassium bromate in the US, despite its widespread prohibition everywhere else, raises some serious questions about our food safety regulations and the influence of industry practices over public health. The momentum building at the state level, with California leading the way, surprisingly, offers a glimpse of hope that change is on the horizon. But we as consumers have a crucial role to play. It's essential to be informed. Read your ingredient labels. Choose products that explicitly state they are bromate-free. Support bakeries that prioritize your health and safety by using natural alternatives. Contact your elected officials and let them know that you demand stronger food safety regulations and a ban on potentially carcinogenic additives like potassium bromate. Our health and the health of future generations depends on it. The science is clear. The safer alternatives exist. The world is moving towards a bromate-free future. It's time for the United States to catch up, prioritize the health of its citizens, and do much, much more. So thank you for joining me on this important investigation on potassium bromate. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and demand safer food. Until next time.